Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the canyon. Welcome back to another of those perfect intersections. It's a perfect intersect. How did we used to do the thing? We get the I don't know. I haven't done it in so long. Where I farm you for content because we have a whole series of from the comments. We have because you ask a question, and a lot of the times I think I myself have had that question and have never gone ahead and answered it. Plucked directly from the comments from just a couple days ago, Charles Hurley, 8927, asked, I have a question. I've heard that towing out your front tires on a crawler helps get a tighter turn. Do you know anything about that? So I quickly responded that I generally run either neutral, which would be like this, and to determine your tow angle, all you need is a ruler. And if you're running a tire like a canyon trail, it's just made all that much easier. You measure the front of the tire about midpoint up from the ground, and we are at 215 millimeters. As I said, much easier on a canyon trail. It has a very defined center line. So we measure center line to center line, and then we unceremoniously flip them over, and we measure the back. Easier if I do it this way. And we are at about 218. So we have about 3 millimeters of toe in on this setup, give or take. I mean, let's call it 3 millimeters. So we're running 3 millimeters of toe in. And in my response to the comment, I had basically said, I prefer to run neutral, or in exchange for neutral, if we don't get it dead neutral, I prefer a little bit of toe in. And I say this because in a toe in condition, it will make the outer tire turn more. And generally, when you're bound up and loaded up, this tire is going to have more weight on it, so it's going to try to push you around more. Or, so I would think. That would be my brand, my form, my variant of conventional wisdom. But then I remembered a thing. This is Zaymot. He is the blue twin. For those of you who have been lured here by answering the question of, do you prefer toe in or toe out? You might not know that he is the blue twin and he is the red twin. We've gone through some not insignificant amount of work to create two completely identical rigs. So this is what we do. We do a this or that. We pluck it straight from the comments and we do a this or that. Toe in versus toe out. This is a 145 millimeter tie rod. It is the tie rod that it should actually be 143 and a half, which would give me 0. So we're running slightly towed in. That might not be enough toe in to actually tell any kind of a difference. So we dig into the bins. I will be correcting this to 143.5. We can actually do a we can do a fun thing right here, which is we will pop Tomax, who is red. We will pop his tie rod off. And we will see how close we got using a shock assembly tool, which if it is long enough, and it should be, we can determine if we actually got these the same length. Because when I assembled these, I absolutely did not do this. So what you do is you push that out until that mark is at 0. And this one is 144. We're on the upper hole. See how the upper hole is right on 144? And then we take this guy and we put him on there. And you see how it doesn't quite want to slide on? You kind of got to move it. So I don't know if we can get a focus in tight enough. See, we're at about 1 millimeter. So 144, 145. So this guy is much closer to 0 toe, and he was running, and because this came off of him, and that came off of him. So we were actually running about a 3 millimeters, give or take, maybe a little under 3 millimeters of toe in on him, and he was running much closer to neutral. Now, on 4 millimeter, they have a thread pitch of 0.7, so getting that exact amount of turn, particularly when you're dealing with an angled end and a bent link, it's kind of difficult to pick up, say, 0.5 millimeter. We'll see what we can do. But for today, so you saw we have a 144 and a 145. Is that right? Yes. I have assembled 2 links. These will not measure up equally on the comparator. This is the proper way to measure links, by the way. This is 139. So that is 5 millimeters smaller than what he was running. So we'll put that on him. And then we've made one that should theoretically be 5 millimeters longer. This should be a 150. And it is actually 149.5. So that is 4.5 millimeters longer than what he was running. So we have very nearly 10 millimeters differential in toe angle. The blue gentleman for this day will be running 5 millimeters or thereabouts of toe out, which I feel like the only way to do this kind of shenanigan, this is also going to throw the steering off. So they're both going to have to run some not insignificant amount of steering trim today, because 5 millimeters of tie rod length is definitely what you would classify as an amount. So we will do a quick measure, and it will let you know what 5 millimeters of tie rod length makes up in terms of toe in, toe out. Because we've basically, unknowingly, been doing this test already. Because I was running one at 1 millimeter, and as you saw, 1 millimeter of tie rod differential makes for around 3 millimeters of toe in. And then you see we have the opposite. Whoa, that is the pigeon toe. But now, we've just gone full Ackerman now. So look at the turn-in angle of the outside tire in the turn. Really sharp. And then this guy will be doing the opposite, the turn-in angle of the outside. Look at the wow! So we've got a lot of Ackerman. So that may indeed translate to that might translate to more steering. One is gonna, well, they're gonna do something different. This is a not insignificant amount of toe. So on the toe out, gentlemen, we are now looking at, what were we at? 215? He is now 227 in the front and 204, 23 millimeters. That's more than should be run. But if we're gonna do it, we might as well do it to the extreme. I don't want to, because we got 1 millimeter of rod differential incidentally. Like, they look very close. You'll do the thing where you tighten the rod end down until it's snug, line them up so they're both faced, and there you go. And this one came out 144 and this one came out 145, or vice versa. This one came out 144 and this one came out 145. You'll just end up there without trying. And then this one is 195 in the front. 195. And 28 in the back. So if you run it, see, because it's not going to be equidistant, because the rod is on the front. If we ran BTA, we could get it the same. But instead, this guy, so he's running 27 millimeters of toe out, cumulative. And this guy is running 32 millimeters of toe in. That's a lot. That's a real lot. I would think that around 5 millimeters is basically as far as I would want to go. So on this setup, on a 145 millimeter tie rod, the most I would want is about a millimeter either way on the tie rod. But we're going with 5. I'm going to get these guys buttoned up and ready to go. And we're going to go out to the rocks and we're going to do some things that we can compare side by each, back to back, and see. These are exaggerated, and I would like to point out, on purpose, because I want it to be big, noticeable. I did not notice 1 millimeter. It did not feel like one was turning tighter or less tight than the other. We will do the usual stuff. We'll have them go in a circle. We'll have them do some navigation on rocks, and then we'll see. Like, the hope here is that one will be immediately noticeably better or worse than the other. Not that they look exactly the same. Although, maybe, if they look pretty much the same, I think that's better for all of us. Because then we can stop fretting over getting our tie rod 1 millimeter apart. I don't think that's going to happen. Because on some builds, particularly the servo and axle on the front end of like a VRD, 1 to 1.5 millimeters of rod length differential will move the whole front end 5 millimeters one side to the other. So I think we're probably in that sort of a situation. This is going to be very different, and this is something I've never done, and that's what the comments are for, and that's what the twins are for, and that's what the canyon is for, to do the pseudoscience where we do what we must because we can for science. And we will go to the rocks right about now and find out what is the actual deal. All right, remember along with me, because I'm saying it as much for myself as I am for you. Red is towed in and blue is towed out. And as was mentioned, a lot. In excess of an inch of a cumulative tow in or out on them respectively. Okay, all right, well already, what I thought would have been the outcome is not the outcome. So the inner tire, so right here, we're getting more turn up there. Okay, I caught it better that, oh man. Okay, hold on. All right. This amount, you know, we are talking an excessive amount of tow, but I think the excessive amount of tow is the better way to exhibit what's going on. The excessive amount of tow in is murdering the turning circle, as one would expect, because on a go-fast vehicle, tow in is going to increase straight line stability. It's going to want to keep you going in a straight line. Tow out is going to quicken the steering response. Boy, does it. Yeah. Wow. Okay, all right. So there's the conventional wisdom, and then there is what actually happens. Okay, so now it's becoming an issue of what are the drawbacks and how big are they? Because I almost don't notice the turning circle on this toe end the turning circle is doubled on the toe end. But right there, it felt like it pulled through with less effort. Because I think that orientation of the tire is like, think of it like swimming. So the toe in stroke is going like this, whereas the toe out stroke is going like this. So yeah, I can see how on some points of ascent, now let's see right here, more turn. Yeah, in that instance, when we get the load on the toed in, so the tire that's turning more, so we're in a near Ackerman situation. When the tire that's turned more in the toe in situation has load on it, really sharp. The steering response is as good as the toed out condition. But when it's, so like right here, more toe, so more response. Or more accurately, weight on that toe. On the other hand, when it's not loaded, it's not great. Let's see. Okay. Let's do a 30 pass and see what happens with the front end. Okay, what's it gonna do to the, okay, 35? 33 will work. Okay, that felt really stable. And my brain would want to think that this is going to be less stable. But I don't know. I thought toe in was the way to go, when apparently a slight amount of toe out is the way to go. So the internet may indeed be correct on this one. Yeah, all right. So it is more steering, as one would expect. Now that I think about it, yeah, a toe out condition is going to make the front end more responsive, but it is going to make the front end more responsive at the expense of stability. We're definitely going to have to see that on a side hill, because I think these exaggerated amounts of toe, I think the red is going to do a lot more, is going to exhibit a lot more stability on side hill relative to the blue. The blue requires a lot of steering input just to keep it going in a straight line. Yeah, the sheer amount of steering inputs that have to be applied on this toe out, it's like, it's constant. And then right here, so you get into that moment when that outside tire not turning in. Okay, we jostled it back. Yeah, there's a real difference in control. Yes, we are talking about an excessive amount of toe in and toe out. We're gonna get that load on the tire that can turn more, get it in position. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're interpolating again. We're using these data points to imagine future data points, and I'm thinking in terms of more real world examples of toe in and toe out. When do you want a toe in condition versus when you want a toe out condition? Because I don't think the more wheel time we put, we're up to a couple minutes here. The more wheel time I put on one versus the other, I'm doing my very best here to evaluate when would the one condition be superior. So far, in the minutes that I've seen now, like right there. We've got a bunch of turn on the inner tire because of the toe out, but the outer tire is the tire doing the work, and it can't pull it over because we're basically just hanging the other one in the air. Once we get it into place, we can get the go. Now, if we get into an approximation of the exact same situation when towed in, if the toe in won't push us, look at the push. Look at the push. Okay, we want to get right here. Yep. It does exactly what you think it would do. It's the loaded tire. And I think, all right, okay. No. We're theorizing, but we're not ready yet. So what it feels like in general is that the toe out condition takes a little away from the forward drive. So if you have a surplus of forward drive, you can toe in a little bit and it will give you more bite on is it side? I guess side loaded bite increases. This is so stable, it's stupid. Now, will it be enough? Look at that body twist. Yeah, there we go. That really twisted away. If the big toe out does better on the side hill, then nothing means anything anymore. Oh no. No. It's almost uncontrollable. So realistically, we're looking at a millimeter's difference in tie rod length, maybe less, because a millimeter gives you about 5 millimeters of net toe in, toe out. Actually, we didn't check. Well, if a millimeter's difference toe is 5 millimeters in and 145 is neutral, the differential on the other way, because we towed out, we towed in more, which one is more? Yeah, we're loading that tire, and will it stay down? Yeah, sure. We have to get into the middle of the transition, though. It feels uncontrollable. So I would definitely not go more, well, depending on how every knuckle is going to be different, every rod end, whether the tie rod is angled, what you net in toe in or toe out versus the length of the tie rod is going to be different on every axle. We got away with it here because we have 2 identical axles on 2 identical vehicles. But all you need is a ruler. Metric is easier. You measure center of tire, center to tire, front and back. And if you can set it up that way to determine what your zero toe tie rod is going to be, which for these is apparently around 144. And then you can adjust from there. Yeah, it's never run this much toe. So I think what we're looking at is if you need a little more steer angle, if you would like a little bit more response, but understanding that you're exchanging that steering response for stability and a little bit of forward drive, then a little bit of toe out is going to help. If you need stability, then a little bit of toe in is going to help, because neutral is going to be a neutral level of stability, particularly when you're on side hills or in weight transfer moments like this. We got a big side hill here. So right there, that front passenger, the high side front is super light, but doesn't feel it at all. Now when we load that low side tire, Can we get the transfer through it without it buckling under us? Yeah, see, the stability here, I can mess it. We came in way too high, but it's going to hold it. Yeah, it is definitely a ramp up. It is a jump in stability. Now, I think the temptation here is, we know that we need a 144 neutral. The temptation here is to put a 143 on one and a 145 back on the other, and just run 5 millimeters toe in on one and 5 millimeters toe out on the other. Like as a long-term sort of a thing, to see how we feel. Because I genuinely could not tell the difference, anecdotally, between that 5 millimeters and zeroed. It felt about the same. Which makes me wish that I had 5 millimeters of toe out, as an example. You know what I'm gonna have to do? Oh, it's not a diminished level of stability. It is a lack of stability. So you, whatever you set to, I wouldn't go past about, I think you might be able to get away with maybe 7 millimeters net, 3.5 millimeters per side. Also, your track width is gonna come into play there. Wheelbase is gonna come into play there. These guys are both 313s, so the steering circle sharpened so dramatically on the blue one, to the point where we've sacrificed too much of other stuff to get that turning circle. His turning circle is fine. We don't need to add that much. I would rather have the little bit of increased stability, which I get, maybe I was noticing and not noticing, subconsciously noticing. But I definitely, I'm coming to the point where I think that there's definitely an application for both. But this is, I think, final percentage stuff. You need your tires and inserts sorted out. You need your link geometry sorted out. Shock spring. You need to be sorted, and then you can get, this is fine tuning, final tuning of the rig. I really want to get a full run here and see how I fit. We're going to come backside. We're going to come backside across here. Kind of running these backwards just because it feels right. Okay, now this should be the advantage to the towed out tire, because that swing, we should be able to almost get this swing right through there. Yeah, that was pretty point and shooty. I aimed it where I wanted it to go, and it went to the place I wanted to go. Didn't really have to use much in the way of reverse. Oh, but like, yeah. This doesn't, oh, all right, hold on. As we get more, oh, that got real squirted over. Yeah. What this is coming down to on these rigs, as they are identical, is where are the moments it doesn't feel right? one relative to the other. This is how you break an axle, by the way. No, perfectly positioned. Okay, inside. Can we keep the load in? And see here, we get that load over. I thought that this was going to be a tighter turn situation for the toe out, but it was a much tighter turn situation for the toe in. We got way inside. Way inside. It turned so much more because we got onto that real side hill where it was loading the low side tire, which was the one that was turning more. Yes, which was the one that was turning more. So it is, the toe out is definitely going to improve your steering response at the expense of stability. The toe in is going to improve your stability at the expense of steering response. I think they both take a bit away from forward drive because the lugs are kind of sliding a little bit. So what it's going to really come down to, and again, I can't emphasize enough that you want to work in small numbers. Like a millimeter different either way of tie rod length is probably what you're going to end up working with. If you need a little bit more turn, like if you're working with a TRX4 axle, give yourself that couple millimeters of net toe out. It's going to help that response. It's not going to sacrifice too much stability, at least in the interpolation theory room. It might, and it's not that hard, honestly. You can do a bit more. You'd probably be about 7 millimeters net if you disconnect one end of your tie rod, give it one 360-degree revolution, which should lengthen your rod by 1.4 millimeters, recenter your steering, and see what it feels like. Because I think that's what it's going to come down to. I am going to set both of these boys to neutral because I think my brain operates in neutral. Like I'm just revving, just stuck in neutral, because I find myself accommodating for both situations. I find myself making corrections for one or the other and forgetting what correction I'm making for one versus what one correction I'm making for the other. So don't do as I say, not as I do. And what I say is make a small change and then put at least a pack into it in that condition and see how it feels. Because this is too anecdotal. And switching back and forth, twinsy style, is great. And also very sort of the double-edged variety, because I kept forgetting where my turn-in point was on one versus the other, because we set these up really, really exaggerated. What did I say? 27 millimeters on one and 32 on the other. So we have a 59 millimeter total differential in, toe out between the two vehicles. They don't behave as differently as you would think. Like that amount of tire angle you would think would be more significant, but it isn't. It is definitely noticeable, and this is where the problem has come in. That's why I say run at least a pack, because if you're running 5 to 7 millimeters net, if you have a turnbuckle tie rod in the front, like some axials, oh, you are set like a jet. You can go in tiny little increments and see how it feels. But if you may indeed be running a few millimeters of toe in or toe out and just have never noticed it. So whatever you're running, here's another one for you out there. Situationally, you get your ruler, you measure your tires. If you're running, say, 4 or 5 millimeters of cumulative toe out, dial it in and try running 4 to 5 millimeters of cumulative toe in and see how the feel changes. I know how the feel on these changed. We gave up stability in exchange for steering response, and we gave up steering response in exchange for stability. And it's not an all the time. It's not a 10 out of 10 all the time. When Red on his big toe in has load on the tire that is turning more, he is super crisp, snappy, responsive, but the stability doesn't feel like it falls away. Meanwhile, the blue guy is snappy, responsive all the time, but then when he gets load on it, because the tire is turned so much, you get those, what I call Porsche snap outs, where all of a sudden the snap oversteer moments translated over to crawling, where everything's going fine, and then it's not fine at all anymore. You've just rolled away. The chances of rolling away on the toe-in condition are significantly reduced. The stability is enhanced a lot, but it's all compromise. You're giving to get. And zero toe, right there in the middle, is going to be the perfect compromise. It's going to be the overlapping bell curves of stability and steering response. So, you know, if you feel like you've got enough steering, then you don't need to mess with it, really, I don't think. I think zero toe is the way, neutral, unless there's something that you can't tune out. Or if you want to spend 30 seconds plus the time it takes to run a pack to give a spin to your tie rod in. It's not, you know, in grand scheme of things, it's not that big of an expenditure. It's just time, right? We all have a limited amount. Oh no, let's not get too philosophical here. Is one better than the other? No. Is one worse than the other? Worse than the other? Not really. They do different things, and what thing you need them to do will determine which one you want. Yeah, I think we covered it. Blue thinks we covered it. I need to put more grease in his gearbox or his axles. I don't know which. Red thinks we covered it. So I'm gonna reset both of their tie rods to 144. I'm gonna slap them back on, and then we will go back about doing other shenaniganery. So thanks so much for watching this one, everybody. Please do tune in for whatever comes next. In between now and then, please one and all do your very best to have a good one, everybody. And when you're having a good one, pop down in those comments, because we love the comments, because you know what we do? We farm them for content. We make content out of your comments. That's what we do around here. My brain is old. It's tired. Sometimes I can't think of things. The nailer is back. I'll see you next time, everybody. A good time. And bye, all.